You say that there is no document, there is nothing saying that the president signed a one-term pact with the governors. But do you think that there was a gentleman's agreement, or some statement that some people interpreted to mean that he was only going to run for a term?
Not from the president that I know. I have been with the president since he was vice president in 2007 as his legal and constitutional advisor, and during his acting presidency, and when he was sworn in as the substantive president when our former president passed on. I will tell you with all sense of responsibility that Mr. President has never made any statement or I entered into any gentleman's agreement with anybody that he will run for only one term. The Mr. President I know will never make any promise that will, take away his right. And if some people somewhere sat down to think that this Mr. President can be intimidated out of contest, they are getting it wrong. It's his constitutional right. He has the right to contest, and nobody can stop him if he so desires. I am saying, and I repeat, there was no such agreement between Mr. President or any person for and on behalf of Mr. President with other people that he will only run for first term.
Mr. Gulakk, you just said that the president would not have made any promise that would have impeded on his constitutional right. Now, we do remember that at the inception of the president's administration, there was a proposal for a single term of, was it 7 years? The president did say that he would have preferred 7 years. And the promise then was that if that proposal went through the National Assembly and did become law, the president was not to profit from it. So assuming this had happened in his administration, do you think that he would have run for a second term, or would he have sought to benefit from that? How do you think the president would have handled it?
Well, Mr. President has always said that this issue of second term, a governor is sworn in, the very week he's sworn in, people will begin to plan his second term, distracting people from governance. And he said the best thing for this country is for governors and president to go in for first and final term, maybe 6 years or 7 years. That was his plan for the country. But running democracy, all stakeholders must be on the same page. And that plan did not fly, especially with other stakeholders in this country. So if it had happened during the life of this administration, well, speaking from my knowledge of the president, I know he means what he says and says what he means. But definitely, if that amendment had passed through and it takes down 7 years for president and the governors, and it affects him, he will not change the constitution. Mr. President is not one of those that will change constitution to suit his purpose. He is not that kind of a person. He goes by what is in the book. He goes by what provisions our constitution have in respect of that. So this is a man who will not and who will never, because of his interest or because of individual aspiration, change the laws.
All right, Mr. Gulakk, we're out of
he
time
will
on
have
this one.
abided by it.
Briefly, if you can, there are reports credited to the Niger State governor that the PDP is victimizing him or putting him under pressure to retract the comments which he made about the one-term agreement. Is the party victimizing the Niger State governor?
The party will not. The leadership of the party, as of now that I know, will not victimize anybody for what he has said. You see, everybody has fundamental right of expression. Whether what he said is wrong or right is not for us to start debating. But he has already said it, and if on his own volition he goes back to say, oh, maybe he was quoted out of context, or maybe he misunderstood what happened, or something like that. And if he does, fine and good. But no party, nobody is taking what he said to be serious. Because I know nothing like that happened. The party knows nothing like that happened. So why should the party be disturbed about the statement? And why should the party even victimize him? The leadership of the party that I know will not victimize anybody for such statements.